Welcome to the Tactical Dad podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Cook, and I am the Tactical Dad. In this episode, we are going to talk shooting a pistol, helpful tips, and some common mistakes that I am currently aware of. Now, if you've been following this podcast and seen anything I've put online, you'll know I'm not very experienced. I'm still pretty new to this. I'm still I'm not a beginner, but I'm still a newbie really. So I can't teach people how to shoot. Can't do any of that. But I have learned from my instructor and from watching lots of videos and reading lots of things, doing lots of research. I've learned some helpful tips in terms of where to position your hand on a pistol and where to position your support hand. And I have also learned some common mistakes because I had them mistakes pointed out to me by my instructor. So I can share that. There's probably more helpful tips and more mistakes, but I'm not gonna talk about things I'm not comfortable or very confident enough to talk about yet. I'm just going to share a few things, and these are short podcasts too. So if you're listening to this podcast, I suggest you go to YouTube and you watch the video, because I'm going to actually show you the position of my hands on the grip, because it's quite difficult to communicate that and for you to see it just with audio. So I suggest going to YouTube for this one. So helpful tips is your grip holding. Actually, no, before we get to holding the pistol, the stance, like standing. Now, there's a couple of different stances I was told, and that is one, standing like a boxer and positioning your body with 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. Depends on which side dominant you are to how that would work, whether it's your right foot forward, left foot back, or the opposite. Mine was left foot forward, right foot back when I tried it, and I didn't quite like that stance, but I tried it anyway. And then you position your body's center of gravity slightly forward, so you're leaning forward a little bit, because when you fire the gun, there's going to be some recoil, so sort of to prepare for that and to handle that, and rather than get knocked backwards, because if you're shooting an AR or something, it's going to be quite rapid fire, so before you know it, you're going to be leaning over backwards and falling over. So leaning forward, and there you go. The other one was standing more your feet sort of equal, more like not a full squat obviously, but little flex in your knees, little bend from your hips. Sort of a ready position, an athletic position, and same again with your body center of mass leaning forwards, and then holding the same reasons for that as well, just to handle the recoil. So recoil being when you shoot the gun, it's gonna wobble around a little bit, and it's gonna come back at you because of all the force and energy that's been generated to fire the bullet. So holding the pistol, I had a terrible grip to start with. So the first thing is you want to set the hand that's holding the gun wants to be positioned as high up on the beaver tail as possible. And I think the common theme with this actually is higher up, just come to think of it now, because it's all about handling the recoil. It's all about being steady and very very supported. That's the whole point of it. So finger off the trigger, obviously. I had a terrible habit of having my finger always on the trigger, which is not a good thing. Only put your finger on the trigger when you are about to shoot. Make sure you know where that thing's pointing. So high up on the beaver tail. If you're watching the video, you can see my hand high up here. Actually, this is a Smith & Wesson 9mm Easy, so there's like an extra safety feature back here, so you really got to press in and upwards for you to actually be able to shoot the gun. So that was quite helpful. So this was kind of a good training gun to start with, this 9mm. It's not what I'm going to stick with for competition, but great to start learning with. So high up there, and then my support hand. So you see on the other side, now I'm pointing out the video, my thumb is high up here, right below the safety, so I can easily adjust the safety there. So let's just keep it on for now. There's no magazine in it. There's nothing in the chamber. There's nothing there. So it is not loaded. However, I'm still aware of where I'm pointing it. So my right thumb is up here, high up, and then my left hand is going to come over the top of my right, wrap it around like this. So my fingers sort of go into the cracks between my right hand fingers. My left thumb is really pressed upwards underneath my right thumb, and obviously it's further forward, and my thumb is high up, basically pointing down the slide. Now this 9mm is quite small actually. So my left thumb is pointing down the slide, and there's no gap. One thing that my instructor caught me doing was that there was a gap between my right thumb and the base of my left thumb. If you look on the video, you see a little gap there. So he really forced me into pressing upwards this way. But not to have too much tension and tightness in your overall hands, because that can affect the, when you pull the trigger, that can affect that. That had a negative effect on me pulling the trigger. But there you have it. So this is very, let's just go ahead and set this down. So this is a very solid, secure, stabilized gun. So it can handle the recoil, and it is very helpful and conducive to me pointing the iron sights. So that's it, basic grip. Common mistakes is that gap, because that's what I did. Gap between my right thumb and left thumb. And then the other thing, well, before he caught that, I was down here. Like my thumb was like really low, almost too close to the trigger. That's my left thumb. So when it came to shooting, it was so wobbly after I shot. And this isn't a big gun. This doesn't pack as big of a punch as a lot of others. So with my hands and thumbs positioned too low, there was too much opportunity for this gun to wobble around, which obviously is not helpful towards getting on target and being as accurate as I can be. So that was my common mistake. The other thing, my mistake when I was standing upright, is that I didn't have my center of mass forward enough. In fact, if you're watching the YouTube, I'm going to demonstrate. So now I'm like this, leaning forward, center of mass slightly forward, whereas before I was stood too upright, arms out, and as I reached my arms out, I was actually leaning back, so my center of mass was leaning backwards. So even with this small gun, when I fired, I was getting further and further back. So there's a couple of helpful tips if you're new to shooting and you want to improve how you hold the pistol and how you shoot the pistol. I guarantee that's going to help you, because they were my mistakes and they were the few little tips that helped me shoot better. And that's coming from my instructor, who is a ex-Navy SEAL and is unbelievable when I see him shoot, how accurate and fast he is. So it's coming from a good source, and I hope that I relayed it well enough for him to say good job. That's all from me today. Thanks for joining me on this short podcast about helping you shoot a pistol and looking over a few helpful tips and some common mistakes, because they were my mistakes. Have a good day. I'll see you soon.